Greeting from Grapevine, Texas. This is Mitch from 30 West IP, and this is the December 2019 webcast. This webcast was recorded on 9 December 2019, and things may have changed if you view this later. During this update, we're going to discuss electronic plotting with David and Ben from ARINC Direct. We have several FAA subject matter experts online, but they're not going to be responding via voice as they've done in the past. They're going to limit their feedback directly to David and Ben after the completion of this. As always, we'll be taking questions at the end of the webcast, and Joe will be assisting the webcast to ensure that if there's any technical problems that we can try to help resolve that. Now, there's a couple of things that we want to review before we take off on electronic plotting because they've come up and they need to be addressed. One of them is a AIC, a supplement to the AIP for Canada that talks about the expansion of the data link mandate that will go into effect on 30 January 2020. So we have a copy of that here, what you're looking at. And previously, this was going to be an expansion that took place on that date, and it went from 290 and above unrestricted. But in 9 July 2019, they changed that. And on 30 January, what would be about 6 weeks from now, it will be 290 to 410 inclusive in the North Atlantic region. This is potentially going to impact a lot of operators. If you're not equipped, it's going to restrict your airspace significantly and maybe even make it prohibitive to operate in the greater region. But it's also going to affect operators who are operating under an MEL release, released without data link but able to depart, and they wouldn't be able to enter that airspace either. And of course, there is, as we've spoken about during training and some of the webcasts in the past few years, going to be an area that is what we've been referring to as an exemption area. It's the ATS surveillance airspace. And you see it depicted here in the AIC in magenta. And this airspace requires not only that you have NAT HLA approval, long-range navigation approval and RVSM approval, but also ADS-B. So while it's exempting you from the operable data link approval for FANS 1A, it's not exempting you from the other letters of authorization that would be required within that airspace. So that's coming up, and that AIC is rather timely. We've been talking about it for some time, but it's a good reminder. And finally, we've had some requests from some clients that our international training would be enhanced if we could have credits provided to the Certified Aviation Manager program that the NBAA has been operating. So we reached out to them and coordinated with them, and they have issued us an approval where if you attend and complete and have a certificate to either our recurrent training or our international initial, that you would get CAM credit. So the initial course will give you 4 points of CAM credit, and the recurrent course will give you 2 points of CAM credit. You do need to identify to us that you'd like that to occur so that we can give that information back to the NBAA. And this really represents an ongoing effort on our part at 30 West IP to work with the industry, with the community in a collaborative fashion. Just like we listen and respond to the NBAA, we listen and respond to the FAA. We try to listen and respond to you as clients, and that's what our effort here includes. So now let me turn it over to David, and he'll walk you through what ARINC Direct has for their new plotting system. And we'd love to see just exactly how that's going to help us to reduce errors and to make our situational awareness much more effective.
Hello, I'm David Hancock with ARINC Direct. Been with ARINC Direct since 2001, on the mobile team since 2012. I'm here with my colleague, Ben Lynn, also on the mobile team. He's been with ARINC Direct, again, basically since its founding. And we're really excited to present our plotting chart to you today. And before we do that, though, thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Dorothy. Thank you, everyone at 30 West IP for all the help getting to this point and for the opportunity to present. Important caveat, neither Ben nor I are in marketing. We make stuff for pilots, And so our slides are kind of minimal. A few words about what we wanted to do with this plotting chart project. We wanted our customers who are flying oceanic, and then ultimately anybody, to be able to get rid of their paper chart in the cockpit, their plotting chart. So they wouldn't have to buy one from Jeppesen or Ops Group or Flight Service Bureau. They can just ditch it and do it electronically. We wanted to handle as many of the usage scenarios that we were able to find in pretty extensive examination of what our customers are doing now. As the ARINCDirect owners, we have access to that and can see what they're doing now, and they have been quite willing to tell us what they want and how they want to do it. One of our hallmarks in the iPad app is that it's easy to use. We want you to sort of feel like you know how to use it just because you've picked it up. This is a little bit harder feature than that, but we still wanted it pretty easy to use. And from a regulatory and an audit standpoint, and just a flight department operations standpoint, we wanted to handle the document storage for master documents with no extra work, without having to learn something new, just using standard ARINCDirect mechanisms. How we started this, well, Ben had the idea, and we had customers asking us when we were going to do something like this. And we started working with a small group of customers and friendly helpers. And a few people were pretty vocal about what they wanted and how much they wanted it. And we added to those some industry experts that we'd found and some others along the way. And what we ended up with, we call the Brain Trust. It's about 20 people, and these are the people that helped us flesh out the original approach and some of the look and feel and some of the symbology and so forth. And we've been very grateful to them. Here's a quick snapshot from our whiteboard of the state of the Brain Trust a few weeks ago. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out a really good article that also gave us a lot of clarity into what was needed. And that is the article Paper versus Plastic that's on Code 7700. The author of this, Eddie in quotes, it's not his real name, he's in the Brain Trust. And this was a really good article. It sort of blew us away that people were, there's information in this article about how to use dividers on your iPad map in a way that you don't scratch the glass. So that was really kind of interesting, and we thought we've got to be able to come up with a better way. So this is worth reading, and actually a lot of what's on Code 7700 is good reading also, as is the information on 30westip.com. And now we're going to launch into a demo. It's going to take most of the time. It's much more fun than listening to me talk about non-marketing slides. It'll be kind of a start to finish run of a transatlantic flight, and Ben Lynn is gonna do the driving.
As he indicated, my name is Ben Lynn. I'm the product manager for ARINCDirect mobile applications. I've been with ARINCDirect, as he indicated, since 2003. I've been in the mobile apps world for about 5 or 6 years, I would estimate. I'd like to add my own thanks to the folks at 30 West, Mitch and Ed and Joe and everybody else there who I haven't met, for providing us this platform to show our stuff. I'd like to thank the people who tuned in to watch the presentation. A lot of our customers have been excited about this. They've let us know how excited about it they are, and so it's been exciting for us to work on. And lastly, I'd like to thank the team of developers and testers, all over the world, from Barcelona to Seattle to Annapolis. Talented and dedicated, and they're the ones who've really done the heavy lifting to bring you what I'm going to show you today. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Here we are at the ARINC Direct mobile login page, iPad app login page. Most of you probably in the audience familiar with this. We'll get logged in, select your tail of interest, and load all legs in the future for that tail. Should take just a second. And now we're going to show you our latest feature that we're here today to talk about, plotting chart. Get rid of that. Everything associated with plotting chart is on the map section of the app. So all we do is go down to the bottom button on the left. And we want to select the leg up at the top, which is the one that we're going to use for the crossing. I'm going to select Helsinki to New Hampshire flight, and I'm going to do a little decluttering here, get rid of the METARs. And from this point, you can see the plotting chart button right up here on the top bar is grayed out, and that is because this flight has no request for filing. That brings me to a few of the requirements in order to use plotting chart. One, you have to have a filed or canceled ARINC Direct flight plan. We currently do not support third-party plans directly in this feature. Another requirement is that you have location services enabled for our application. So you go to the iPad settings, go to privacy, go to location services, and you verify that ARINC Direct is enabled while using. We'll go back to our app, and I'll quickly file this flight plan, which is due out in a couple of days, so it won't actually get transmitted to ATC. And once that's done, I can go back to the map, and the plotting chart button is now activated. You can see that the filing status is pending. Plotting chart button is alive. A couple other things we will do the first time you use plotting chart. Once I tap on it, a tutorial will pop up. We have several forms of documentation about this feature. One of them is this in-app tutorial that will pop up the first time you use the feature. You can scroll through the different screens, but that's what we're going to talk about today. You just dismiss it if you're already a pro. The other thing we'll tell you about is we'll recommend that you use Network Manager in order to connect two devices if you plan on sharing data in between the pilot and the second in command. If you want data to flow back and forth between the two devices, you want to use Network Manager to accomplish that. Lastly, I'd like to highlight that we've got a new base map that we turn on by default. If you tap under chart type, you'll see plotting chart is a new layer that we have available for you to put down at the bottom. It's updated every 28 days with the ARINC cycle. You don't have to use this base map, but it will have a lot of the same features that you would see on a paper plotting chart. You could switch to world high, you could switch to street view, you could switch to any number of them, but that's the one we put you on by default. A couple of things that you'll notice on this base map, the worldwide FIR boundaries. I'll take a quick trip around the globe, you can see that the FIR boundaries are worldwide. We have a lat-long grid. We have magnetic variation bands. And particularly in the North Atlantic, you'll see the fish points on the coast out and the coast in sections of the crossing. One thing we get asked about a lot is this just a North Atlantic plotting chart? And no, it's not. We encourage you to use this tool on any oceanic crossing, Pacific, Indian, polar, you name it, just for demonstration purposes and because it's the majority of the crossings will focus this demonstration on a North Atlantic crossing. But we've had customers use it already coming back from the Far East to the West Coast, Hawaii trips, polar trips. It should be used wherever you do a crossing. So I turned on the plotting chart button and you saw a toolbar appear over on the left-hand side. The idea is you start at the top and you work your way down. We have two documents that are going to be produced at the end of your flight. Once you get to your destination, you're going to want to remember to hit close out. And that is going to finalize and save two documents as leg documents, and they will automatically be sent back to the website for you. One of them is a master document, and you can look at the status of wherever you are in the flight. You can look at your interim status of your master document at any time by just tapping that button. But once you close out, that master document will be finalized and saved back to the website. We'll also take a high resolution image of your crossing, which will include a lot of the symbology that we wind up putting down on the map, as well as your ETPs and some other data that you would normally see on one of your paper charts after a crossing is complete. Our goal with this tool is to allow you to stop using the paper plotting chart. So that's the focus of all of the functionality you're going to see, is to get to a state where you no longer have to use those procedures. So as I said, we want to start at the top and work your way down. Waypoint check is the first box up that you'll see up at the top. Above that is just a collapse and expand tool, just to get it out of your way. You can collapse and expand. But right below that, waypoint check is the waypoint check is the first item that you're going to want to take care of. What you do in there is you define the coast out and coast in points, which defines the oceanic portion of your flight. And you're also going to want to do what we're calling a device to glass check. We take a stab at what your coast out and coast in points are. In this case, we've selected the point Tabev as your coast out and Mike Alpha as your coast in. You have the ability to change this if you want. If we've missed, feel free to go ahead and modify your coast out and coast in as you need to. If you want to use this, if you want to have a position report card for the entire flight, you can go coast out as your departure airport, coast in as your arrival airport. But if you're just concerned about doing the oceanic portion using this tool, then select whichever coast out and coast in point you want. Next to that, you'll see a magenta oval with a dashed magenta oval. This is your action on this page. What you want to do is perform what we're calling is the device to glass check. Similar to what you would normally do on an oceanic checklist, the paper to glass check, where you would verify that the lat longs displayed on your flight plan match what is in your FMS, and you would also cross-check that the mag course and the distance from one waypoint to the next matches what's in your FMS. Once you do that here, you've done your device to glass check. You can see that we've indicated that you have 8 to do. That's how many position reports that you've got selected between coast out and coast in inclusive. So you just start at the top. You say, okay, TABEV, the data looks right, and then you tap that dashed oval, and then it turns solid. And you can also see that the number of confirmations that you have to do has decreased by 1. So you proceed in that fashion for the rest of your oceanic points, working your way down. And anytime you see something that is dashed, that is your action button in our interface. So dash turns it solid is really the mnemonic for using this tool. So once you're done, you tap out of that, and you can look at the map, and you can see that we have drawn those ovals around each one of your oceanic position reports. So that's what you do when you're on the ground at your origin. Next thing you do is you take off. Next button in line is OOI. You can see it's got a yellow triangle there. What we're telling you is that you have data that you have not entered in this field. Now, you shouldn't feel like you're required to use the OOI interface, but we recommend you do. And the reason for that is if you put in an out and an off time or an out fuel that is different than your flight plan, then we are going to adjust the estimates that we provide you at each one of your oceanic position reports accordingly. So if you took off 5 minutes later than your planned values, then we are going to adjust the time at each one of your remaining waypoints by 5 minutes. Similar with fuel, if you take off 100 pounds light, we're going to adjust your estimated fuel remaining at each one of your oceanic position reports by 100 pounds. It's not a recalculation of the flight, it's just a difference between what your planned and what your actual is. The other reason you want to use this, that we recommend that you use this feature, is if you populate all of the data, once you get back on the ground, you put in your on, your in fuel, we're going to calculate flight time, block time, and block fuel for you, and we're going to write that to your master document. So that's the next thing you do after you take off. The next item in line is oceanic clearance. Now, oceanic clearance, usually about half hour to 45 minutes before you hit your coast out point, you're starting to get your oceanic clearance from Shanwick or Gander or Bodo, whoever. So we open up oceanic clearance, and you can see what we've got in there for a route. It matches exactly what we have in waypoint crosscheck for your oceanic portion. The TABEV to MA is in waypoint crosscheck. It's also provided for you in original oceanic clearance. Now, we take Mach 80 and flight level 430 from the flight plan. But if you get an original oceanic clearance that is a little bit different, like you're going to fly at Mach 81 and you're going to fly at 410 to begin with, you can make those modifications really easily here, and they modify the route string accordingly. So if your route has to change, however, then the order of operations is this. You would leave oceanic clearance, and you would go down to our edit route feature, which is rubber banding. You would modify, I will show you the edit route feature in more detail later, but for now, just understand that if your oceanic route needs to change, you need to go to edit route and rubber band that route to match what they are giving you. And then when you go back to oceanic clearance, that route will be reflected. The route that you've just changed it to will be reflected there. You can see down here in amended oceanic clearance, nothing's really populated yet, and it says once you ACK your original oceanic clearance, then any subsequent changes to your original oceanic clearance would be reflected as an amended oceanic clearance. And both of these, well, original oceanic clearance will be represented on your master document. And if there is a difference between your original and your amended oceanic clearance, the amended oceanic clearance will also be represented on your master document. I'm going to go ahead and ACK that. I hit the ACK button right there. That is not an air traffic control ACK. All that's doing is telling our program that this is my original oceanic clearance, Any changes that I make after this point will become an amended oceanic clearance. You can see that an exact replica of what you have in original oceanic clearance is represented down in amended oceanic clearance. So if you were to modify this in any way, flight level, cruise mode, route, it's going to be written to the master document. But since the two items are exactly the same right now, only original oceanic clearance would be written to the master document. So you've gotten your original oceanic clearance, and now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start crossing waypoints. Position report is the next button, and that's what I'll bring up now. And this is where you're going to spend a majority of your time when you use this feature. We present you with a carousel of a card carousel down at the bottom, which represents, one card represents each point in your oceanic section of the flight. So there's a first card here with TABEV, and it's got the mag course and the distance to the next point. It shows you ETO and EFR. Now, a lot of people have said that they would prefer us to use the nomenclature ETA and ATA instead of ETO and ATO. And we've heard that, and in an upcoming release, we are going to make that change. It's a simple label change, and apparently we just missed the mark on our initial release of this. So that'll be coming soon. But the things that you do in this position report are, you see the data that's in here already. The estimated data is in light gray text. So this is all data that's taken from your flight plan. I didn't put any information into the UI field, so none of this has been adjusted. This data right now is taken directly from the flight plan. Your fuel remaining at this point, your estimated time over that point, your flight level, your cruise mode, your winds. You also have the opportunity in here to enter data for your altimeters, to do an RVSM altimeter check. You can record your HF or your VHF frequencies here. You can define whether or not you want to do a 5-minute course validation, a 10-minute course validation, or none. We default to 10 minutes. You can indicate whether or not you're going to use slop on this flight. And that's just record keeping for your purposes. It does not get transmitted to anybody else because as we're familiar with, the slop should not be reported to ATC. It's just something that you should do clandestinely, essentially. So, and you also have the option to put notes on any particular oceanic position report. So we're getting ready to get to TABEV. Once your FMS transitions the waypoint, you're going to want to put in your actual time en route. We have a now button, and that'll put in whatever the current time is. And you can see that once I put in a current time, it turned black, and now the field changed from ETO to ATO. Same thing's going to happen with estimated fuel remaining. That's going to change to actual fuel remaining. But your original estimated values are also going to be retained and written to the master document. So you don't have to enter anything in. If all the data that's in here is correct by some miracle, that you're exactly accurate with your fuel remaining, or your crossing time is exactly on the money, you don't have to change any of this. The action on this page is confirm position report. And what we're going to do once you do that, we're going to draw a diagonal line through the oval. And that's depicted here with a dashed diagonal. So you can enter as little or as much of this data on a position report card as you want. We don't make any of it required. It's whatever your SOPs indicate that you need to record at each waypoint indicate, or whatever extra information you feel the situation requires. So I'm just going to fill out a few things just to show you a little bit how it works. Like I said, we're going to go at 410, and we're going to take Mach 81. Well, the winds were accurate, well, I'll update those. 225 at 30, and it's -51. I can put in some frequency data. 10-minute check sounds good. I'm going to do slop 0.5 and a note that just says, so a lot of customers have said, hey, where's the next ETA field? We took the approach where the next ETA is actually updated on the next card. So if I hit confirm position report here, we're crossing TABEV right now. I'm going to hit confirm position report. That is going to update the ETO and the EFR at the next waypoint, 6700 east. So the ETO at that point has been adjusted based on your actual crossing time of TABEV. It's already been put in place for you here. Now, we've got a lot of feedback that has said, that indicates, well, it really just, from a workflow perspective, it makes more sense to show that value on this, on your first card, on your first waypoint card. So we are undertaking a redesign of this position report card, and we feel at that time we are going to provide you with the next ETA field on the first card, because it was causing enough confusion in beta and the initial release of this that we felt it warranted. So if you do feel you need to put a next ETA value in, you can simply put it in notes for the time being. Let's see. And you can see I've already hit confirm position report, and so now subsequent changes to that show up in orange, and now I can save my position report changes. So we don't have a undo feature right now with position report data. We might find that we need to go there, but really what we allow you to do is redo. You're never prohibited from going in and making changes, even though you've already hit confirm. We're going to log whoever made the most recent change to a position report and what time they made that position report data change. So, and we're going to write that to the master document. You can see that now that I've hit confirm position report, a new section to this card shows up, and it's confirm course validation. This is your 10-minute check, or 5-minute check if that's what you selected. If you selected none, this section would not appear, and confirm course validation would not appear. If you selected none for your course validation interval down here. But we selected 10, so here we are. We've got a, let's see, the blue navigation arrow here is your first action button here. If you press that, it's going to take the GPS information either from the device, or if you use an external GPS device, such as a BAT-L for a dual 150, it's going to take data from that when you hit that blue button, and it's going to put your current lat long on the map, marking where you are 10 minutes after. We are starting a countdown timer internally without you really seeing it. We had a crossing time of 2018 Z from the waypoint, and so you had a 10-minute check selected. So we're starting a 10-minute countdown timer, and when 10 minutes is up, we're going to show you an alert right here that says, hey, it's time to do your 10-minute check. We're going to enhance that in a phase 2 release where we're going to support local notifications, in that it will be able to put a banner on the home screen of your iPad, or make a noise, or ring your Apple Watch, whatever the notification supports. So we're going to get a little bit louder with the 10-minute checks. And also a suggestion we received was, when you're getting, you start a countdown timer of 10 minutes, once you get under a minute, start getting a little bit louder, like maybe flashing a card or just visually or audibly, probably visually enunciating that it's almost time to do your 10-minute check. So changes like that are coming, but this is the way it works for right now. So if I hit that blue navigation arrow, it puts in 38 north, 76 west, because that's Annapolis, Maryland, and that's where I am right now. You can see that we drew a magenta X right where I am right now. But if my iPad was in my plane and I was flying just 10 minutes after TABEV, then the lat long would show up here on the map. So I'm going to spoof some lat longs just to show you what it really would look like in the real world. So we are at 66 north, so we want to be, let's see, 66, and let's try 25, and then it's 726 east, so we want to be, let's say 6 east, and we'll do now, we'll say of course, oh, I was close. So let's drop this down 15, drop down a little more, 10, and let's make it 11. And boom, that's what your course validation would look like in a real life scenario. So you have now confirmed your course validation. That draws the second diagonal through the oval, and it also puts an X on the map where you performed your 10-minute check. So that's really all you're doing at each one of your oceanic position reports. You proceed in the same fashion as you keep crossing points. You're going to do the same procedure at your next waypoint. What you can see is that the ETO and the estimated fuel remaining have been adjusted based on what my actuals were at my previous waypoint. You can also see that we carry forward a lot of data. So you won't have to re-enter your flight level. You won't have to re-enter your cruise mode if it hasn't changed. We take whatever your flight level, your cruise mode, your frequencies, your course validation interval, your slop, we take those values from the previous card, we carry them forward, so it's not necessary to keep entering them each time. So the amount of data that you have to enter on the first card might be more than any of the remaining cards because a lot of the data just doesn't change over the course of your crossing. So I'm not going to go through each one of the position reports. Hopefully you get the idea of what you're doing at each one of them, but you're going across, you're confirming your position report, and then you're performing your 5 or 10 minute checks as you go across. And so that's why you're going to spend a majority of your time in that position report area. So those first 4 buttons, waypoint cross-check, buoy, oceanic clearance, position report, those are the interactive sections of the waypoint or of the plotting chart tool. Everything else after that, like ETP, ETOPS, NAT, master document, closeout, those are all just, well, most of them are just layers, information that you can put on top of the map for informational purposes. Some of them have a little bit of interactivity, but I'll go through each one of them real quickly now so you can get an idea of their functionality. So I'm going to hide position report. I'm going to show you ETPs. This plan was computed with ETPs, so if I hit that, the plan ETPs. Oh, and by the way, this came up. If you see a white border around a button, that means it's selected. That's our indication. I maybe have had a couple of customers ask me, how do I turn off plan ETP? Well, you just hit that button again, and there's no longer a white border around that button, so it's off. Turn it back on. That's the toggle. So here are the ETP arrows that are typically drawn on the paper plotting chart. As you zoom in, well, 2 and 3 are right on top of each other, but you've got, here's 1, your depressurized scenario in between ENVA and BIKF. 2 and 3 are pretty much co-located, your medical and your 1 engine in op. Then you move way over here to the other side. You got 4, 5, and 6 all grouped together between KEF and Goose. And then finally, way down here as you're transitioning into Canada is your point of no return, point of safe return. You can tap this little up arrow chevron right there to just kind of dock this out of sight if you want to get it out of the way, but not really turn it off. It's easy enough though to just turn it off and turn it back on. The other item that we have with ETPs is live ETP. Now, live ETP uses the GPS that you have connected to your device or the GPS from the device itself, and it's constantly calculating a mag course and a distance to all of your pre-selected ETP airports. Now, you can use this plus icon right here to add another one to this list if you like. Say the weather, like these circles right here, give you an indication of what the weather is like at each one of your airports, providing you with a situational awareness of, you know, maybe Goose is the closest one to me right now, but if it was magenta, then it's low IFR, so maybe I don't want to go there. Maybe I want to think about going on to Keflavik, depending on what my emergency scenario happens to be. So this really is like, it's a dashboard for you to use as a tactical tool while you're actually flying the plane to provide you with good decision-making tools. You can tap on one of these airports. Say you've got a medical emergency and you're not sure which one of your ETP airports has better medical care. You could tap on one of these, go down to services, try and get in touch with one of the FBOs or some information or one of the services, and see what kind of healthcare facilities they might be able to know about at the field. I don't know if that's a great example or what, but you can access all kinds of information about the airport just by tapping on it, and you automatically see the METARs for that airport, the latest METAR, as long as you have an internet connection. We're going to keep you up to date with what's happening weather-wise there. But back to this tool right here, the plus icon. Let's say none of my planned ETPs are favorable anymore. I tap on that, and I can let's try another one. So I look up BGBW, and I add that, and now BGBW is right there, and BGBW is calculating the mag course and the distance to get there. Now you notice the ETA column is blank right now, and that's because my GPS data does not have any ground speed, and that's because I'm currently stationary. But what I would say is we sort based on the distance column in this tool. We do not sort based on ETA, because that ETA does not take winds into account. I'll tap on this little information button here to tell you. It's based on your current ground speed, highlighting the word current. So if you are heading west in this case, and you are thinking about, you've passed ENVA, and you're thinking about turning around and going back to it, your ground speed is going to change because you're going to turn around and you're going to have probably a tailwind, and so your ground speed is going to increase, and so your ETA is going to be better, or is going to be, you're going to get there probably sooner than what we're showing in this ETA column to begin with. So going westbound, most of the time it's going to be an error in your favor. But going eastbound, you have the potential to turn around into a headwind. And so I would take this ETA value with a grain of salt. It's there for your information, but you know, use your head, use the distance column probably as your primary mechanism for just making decisions as far as where you're going to be headed. So like I said, this might be a tool that you can get more valuable information out of than your planned ETPs, especially if you get a reroute and your new route of flight is dramatically different than what you may have originally calculated. Those planned ETPs really aren't all that valid anymore once you get a reroute of dramatic proportions. So that's ETP. I'm going to turn off that. ETOPS is grayed out because I did not compute this plan with ETOPS. I'm going to switch to a different plan real quick and give you an idea. This is a plan that was computed with ETOPS. It's kind of faint, but you can see the ETOPS circles, and you can also zoom in and see what the criteria that were used to compute that ETP, 389 knots, 180 minutes. That's what the ETOPS section is going to show you. It's just a layer that you can turn on and off. The next button is NAT. So obviously on a North Atlantic flight, you're going to want to put down the eastbound or the westbound, see where they are in comparison to your route of flight. You can tap on one of these and it's going to highlight and show you the TMI is always listed in here. We try and show the TMI wherever we can, wherever it makes sense to. So those are just layers that you can put down. You can also tap that text button. I might have done that too quick. This text button right here, if you tap that, it pulls up the full text of the message. Once again, we show the TMIs up there, 344, 345. And I want to draw your attention to this button right here. That is the manual archive button. If you hit that, you have just made a document for yourself, a leg document for yourself. So if we go there, you can see a document has been created for you. And if you have an internet connection, it will automatically be saved back as a leg document. You might not have an internet connection in flight, but we will queue this up, and when the iPad next gets an internet connection, it'll be archived along with everything else. So I know a lot of operators are required to keep a copy of the NACTRAC message. So that's the gist behind that particular piece of this functionality. The next one is the biggie, edit route, otherwise known as rubber banding. So let's say you get a reroute towards the end of your flight. So let's go into edit route, and what we're going to do is modify the route as needed according to the reroute clearance. Now, I will say this does not perform any recalculation of your flight plan. This is redrawing the route only. So we go in. First thing I will show you is that any point that you have already confirmed is grayed out. If you want to unconfirm a point, the process is the one that you tap on the last one that has been confirmed, and you can unconfirm that one. I am not allowed to unconfirm the next to last one. I have to confirm, or I have to unconfirm in order from the most recently confirmed backwards. So that's why I can't unconfirm JITCAV. I can unconfirm TABEV, and I'm probably destroying these waypoint name pronunciations, but I apologize to all the Norwegians. So let's go back to where the reroute might likely have occurred. Let's say you're at 6650 north, and they give you a reroute to go direct to, I don't know, Rodbo. So what we can do is a couple of things. We can tap on MA, and we can remove MA from the route. We can tap on Clavi, and we can remove Clavi from the route. Now we're going direct from 6550 to Rodbo. I'm going to unconfirm all of those and show you an alternative thing you can do. You can tap on the point, and you can say direct from 6650 to another point in my flight plan is what is implied. So that pulls up this list over here. Now, if I were diverting all the way to one of my alternates from this point, I could select that here. I'll show you what that looks like, but I'm going to cancel that. Or we could say, I'm going direct from 6650 to a point later in my flight plan, such as Rodbo. And that is an alternative mechanism of getting direct to that point. I'm going to undo all those again and show you. Another thing you can do is replace 6650 with another point. And so you can tap on that, and it's going to pull up a search window. Say you don't know where to move, or where the point is that you need to, that you've been reassigned to. Let me back up, and I'm going to make a suggestion that you go up to chart type when you're in this mode, and you select World High. This is going to give you better context for where points might be listed. So say instead of being over, instead of crossing 6650 north, they tell you go over Amini. So you can tap on that and you can say replace 6650 with Amini. Now you could type it in if you don't know where Amini is, but we can clearly see that Amini is right here. So an alternative mechanism is tap on the point, hold it, and drag it up towards near where Amini is. Then you select Amini from the list, you hit add, and that has modified your route. So that is a replace feature. So there's two mechanisms you can use there. You can either search for the point if you don't know where to drag and drop to, search for it by name, or you can just drag and drop if you do know where to drag and drop to. Now, one other thing I'm going to show you is, say you need to insert a point in between Amini and MA, such as, what's this one, Adiri, E-D-E-R-I. You can pick up the route line, you just tap and hold, and then drag it near that point, drop, and then a pick list is presented. You select which one you want. This pick list is a list of points nearby where you dropped. So you pick Adiri, tap that, then you hit add, and now you have inserted a point. So that is delete a point, insert a point, replace a point, and direct to another point from this point. Those are the those are the features that we have in Edit Route right now. This being said, we have been told by numerous beta users that we missed one use case. We need the ability to say direct from wherever I currently am, which is likely not a named waypoint, just my current lat long, wherever my own ship position currently is, direct to another point in the flight plan or direct to another point that is not in the flight plan. So we recognize that this is a very common way to receive a reclearance. We are in process of designing, building that feature into our edit route capabilities. I'm going to undo all. I'm going to make one change. Let's see, MA was the coast in. So I'm going to just tap on MA and I'm going to remove MA from the route. And then I'm going to hit done. And when I hit done, it's going to warn me that some information may be lost. It might not in this case though. And it's also going to drive me back to waypoint check because the critical portion of my route, the oceanic portion, has changed. MA was my coast in, but it's no longer here. So it just wants me to confirm that 6650 is now my coast in. You might want to amend that and say, I want Clavi to now be my coast in. And I can perform my device to glass check for Clavi. And now you can see Clavi has an oval drawn around it. And if I go to position reports, I now have a position report for Clavi. So that is rubber banding and editing the route. I'll show you now the master document, as I said, you could see the interim status of this at any time by hitting the master document button. This is what we are providing you as a record keeping after the flight. So we have some header information, the city pair, the tail number, the ETD, show you the original oceanic clearance, the amended oceanic clearance. Now you can also see that the amended oceanic clearance now is populated because we changed it from MA to CLABI. Detected that there was a change, and so it put the amended value in there. The UI information is presented. I haven't entered any UI information, so it's kind of blank, but you know, we show you the planned ETD, ETA, the planned fuels, and so forth. Once you get on the ground and you finish this, then it's totally populated. Now, for each position report, what we do is we provide you a data card for that position report, populated with as much information as you put in that position report card. You can see you've got the actual crossing time, flight level, cruise mode, your next waypoint, your next ETA is already there. And as I said, that is calculated for you, and it's represented as ETO in the next card. And then your next +1 is also listed. Your actual fuel remaining, as well as your estimated fuel remaining, your actual wins, your planned wins, anything else that you entered, including your notes, and who was the user that last updated it and what time did they do it. So you have this data card for every one of your oceanic position reports. You also get a thumbnail representation of that point with the symbology that you should be used to seeing, the oval, the two dashes, and then the X, which marks the course validation check. We also just tell you, just for orientation, what your slop and course validation check interval were associated with this thumbnail. So you move through the flight, and there's a data card, and there's a course validation, or there's a thumbnail for each point in the oceanic portion of your flight. Down towards the bottom, we show you your route of flight as overlaid with the east tracks, overlaid with the west tracks, and this also represents your original route and your amended route. So that's what the master document contains. We're going to just pretend like we've completed this flight now. We've confirmed all of our position reports. I'm going to go in and put some times in for the UI values. Let's see here. $48. $50, 21, 300. Let's put in now. We'll do 2200. Okay, so as you can see, once I've put in valid data, we're going to calculate the flight time, block fuel for you. The yellow triangle on the UI went away. And now you're on the ground at your destination. You've got all your waypoints confirmed. You've got your UI data entered. It's time to hit closeout. Very important. Hit closeout. It's going to warn me that I haven't confirmed all my waypoints. You, of course, will have confirmed all your waypoints, so you won't see this warning. But it allows you to proceed, but it's just warning you, hey, some of your waypoints haven't been confirmed. So I'm doing that, and that is what is going to finalize your master document and your high-resolution image, and these are automatically saved back to the website. along with the NAT track message, because I manually archived that. And these are saved to a leg folder. And if we go there now, I'm going to go to the website, tap on the user icon, and then you go to ARINC Direct website. Oops. And we'll go to Documents. And we will look for the leg folder. The results here. This flight is here. It is right there. Right here. So we tap on that folder, and all of your documents have been sent down to the website. Now, I have an internet connection, obviously, right now, so it happened right away. If you're in flight and you don't have an internet connection, next time your iPad gets an internet connection, the stuff will be queued and will be pushed. So you don't have to worry about that. But this information, this folder that has been created here, every time you compute a flight plan, we create a leg folder for that flight plan. And so a little while after that flight plan is done, that folder is going to migrate down here to past legs, and those past leg folders are accessible up to 6 months. So that should meet everybody's company record keeping requirements, and that's what should allow you to ditch the big paper plotting chart. So, whoops, we're almost done. If you ever want to look at the tutorial again, it's under settings. We also have a feature under there called Reset All. We have a very big warning that we pop up if you decide to reset all. It's in there for a purpose. We want to get rid of it when we overcome a specific technical challenge. But for now, it's an unfortunate requirement. So I would urge caution and tell people not to use that unless they know what they're doing. But you can access the tutorial at any time by going in and doing it here. We also have a video in addition to this one that's been made by our training team. Our training team also has made a complete chapter 13 of our iPad reference manual, which is available from the website under the help and training menu. There's a quick reference guide. There's no shortage of documentation on how to use this feature. But that being said, our hope is that the symbology that's been used here is familiar enough to everybody that the learning curve is very flat and that it just makes sense. But ARINC Direct always stands behind our products, and so much as customer training and help with anything you need. Anytime you have questions, we're here to assist in getting you up to speed and using any of these features. So that's the extent of my spiel. I'm going to hand it back over to David now, and he'll take it home from here.
Okay, thanks very much, Ben. We're back to the boring slides after the exciting presentation. I'm going to leave these slides on the screen for just a few seconds because we are software developers. We are allergic to promising functionality and especially to promising dates. But we will have a bug fix release really soon and a couple of nomenclature changes that we heard loud and clear. And then as we look toward the future, better mechanisms for amending the route, time and fuel diffs, not just original and planned, but whether you're plus or minus. ETP scenario display filters, a more robust closeout where we might be able to grab the leg weather, also checklist integration, and thank you to all our customers. We get the best kind of feedback ever. And so we will, as this gets into more hands and gets more use, we are sure that we will have many more ideas for things to add. So that's what's next for the plotting chart. For the app, and truly no promises here, but there are going to be some plotting chart releases that we just talked about. And then we're going to pivot into an in-app interface for flight planning. And after that, that'll be a while, by the way. After that, we want to move into what we call an interactive flight plan. The interactive flight plan would have entry widgets instead of having to use annotations to hand draw items on the flight plan. We think an interactive flight plan plus a plotting chart really removes most of the need for any kind of a standard 69 character wide flight plan. And one fine day, we'd like to get automatic updates into the plotting chart for your position, your lat long, your altitude, your ground speed, et cetera. We want to do that, though, in a way that is agnostic to the kind of avionics that you're using. So, as always, keep the feedback and the feature requests rolling into us. We love them. I will put a quick plug in for our beta program. Our beta app can run alongside the production app, two completely separate downloads, separate data, very low risk to be a beta tester, and we don't put it out for public beta until it's pretty robust. And we like motivated testers. The email address there on the screen is a way to get in, and there's a feedback button in the app and the website. You can call operations, all your usual ways of contacting ARINC Direct if you want to be on the beta program. And finally, Ben and I we're overwhelmed at the response to this webcast. So we're really grateful to all of you for listening, and we're now going to take questions for as long as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ben, David, that was an excellent presentation, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you walking through and providing the kind of specific information that you did. We'll go ahead and take questions, but I want to note right off the bat, there's an enormous number of questions, so I'm not positive that we'll get to all of them, but that's going to be our effort. And let me encourage anyone who doesn't get their question answered to either send it to the information that you have on the screen now or to us at 30westip.com and Mitch at 30westip.com, Ed at 30westip.com, Joe, and we'll work to resolve those. So again, thank you very much for that. And I do want to make a final disclaimer. We're not endorsing products. Obviously, we have a relationship with ARINC. They've been very good to 30 West IP, but we're just bringing this information out into a collaborative forum so we can all look at it and see what we think. What we'll do is try to get as many answers as we can. And so, David, you're going to remain live so that you and Ben can largely answer these.
Okay.
The first one, what is EASA's stance or view on electronic plotting? Will they be receptive to electronic plotting during a SAFA check? And I certainly don't know the answer to that. I know that they have stated that they are very supportive of electronic record keeping. And I don't think that they get to determine a large say in this, that's your state of registry, but I won't pretend to be the final authority on that. Anybody have any thoughts?
I will say I know of two operators that are in process of attempting to get EASA certification to use this feature right now. I don't know of anybody who has completed it. As I said, this has been in the store for a week, so I don't know if anybody's made it through all the hoops yet. We are anxiously awaiting word how that certification process goes.
And I've spent more time than I really wanted to reviewing the EASA EFB human interface guidelines, and we are basically compliant with those guidelines. Those guidelines, though, are all written as shoulds, but most of those shoulds we do right out of the box. That guideline does not talk about plotting charts at all. So that's our general stance is that, well, it's not our stance, it's EASA's stance. It's the burden is on the operator to get approval. We're just trying to build a system that is approved.
I sequenced it. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that burden is on the operator to get approval, but we want our system to be as approvable as possible. So we will take feedback from anybody after any of their EASA discussions or SAFA checks, and we really want to know those things so that we can get it even righter than it is now.
Is Collins planning to expand the electronic plotting to domestic flying? We're looking to eliminate paper copies of OFPs.
Absolutely. I'd say that this is a good start. We hope it's a good start. We have our eyes set on it, absolutely evolving and expanding this feature to not really be an oceanic tool only at all, but we want it usable on any CONUS or domestic flight, any flight. Our real goal is to eliminate hand annotations as much as possible, to capture things in data fields in an easier interface, and therefore making it available as data after a flight, which can be used to populate third-party systems. Can be used to do any number of cool things after the flight.
Okay, thank you. I just going, oh my gosh, we've got so many questions. We've really gotten a tremendous response. How do we update the Alpha 061 to authorize electronic plotting? Do you have any guidance with this?
One more time, please, there, Mitch.
Alpha 061 is
Alpha 061. That's for a Part 135 operator to use electronic flight bag, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, once again, our stance is that we're trying to build a system that is approvable, but in all the documentation I've seen, the burden is on the operator for that. So we're not in a position to go get that approval ourselves. That has to be the operator.
All right, and I do know that the folks that we had present last month have begun that process for an operator and have talked to the FAA. So there is a lot of work being done on that. All of us want to be able to meet the expectations of the regulator, not be awry of that. Your really best bet is to talk to your POI as a starting point. Will ARINC Direct allow for electronic plotting in their app for third-party flight plans? And this comes up several times during the questions, and I know you're probably prepared for this.
Yes, we've that was one of the very first feedbacks we responded to on releasing this. At the moment, third-party plans are not specifically supported. That is not. The reasons behind that are technical, not from a business case. As I demonstrated, we're doing the estimated time over, the estimated fuel remaining in each one of the position report cards. And with third-party plans, we simply just don't get segment time data, and we don't get segment fuel data. So we're unable to perform that aspect of our feature. So we'd have to build the feature in such a way that it still operated even without that information. The decision was made that we needed to get this to the store without that capability for third-party plans. We do have intention, it is on our roadmap, to support it at some point, but it would be a slightly downgraded version in that the estimations would be something that the user would need to provide because we just don't have that data from the third-party vendors.
Okay, and that's fair. And the next question was about universal flight plans, and I think that answers that as well.
Yes, Universal is a third-party provider, correct?
Right, exactly. FYI, I just used the digital plotting chart last night, random route Boston to Moscow, and it worked great. That's awesome feedback. Does this only work for the North Atlantic plotting? How about Pacific plotting?
It does work on any flight. There's no restriction. You're going to be able to hit the plotting chart button on any filed flight plan. So Pacific works. We do not have the NOPACs embedded into the iPad app right now, so that is one thing that you're not going to see. The things that make this quote unquote a North Atlantic plotting chart are the fact that we have the tracks built into the system. We show you the fish points on the plotting chart base map. That's the only thing that really lends itself to the North Atlantic. But we've had people use this on a flight from Seattle down to San Diego. So you can use it anywhere.
Okay, excellent. Once the flight plan's available on the plotting, can it be used on the iPad offline?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I would assume that means there's no internet connection. Yeah, you get a large part of the plotting chart still remains functional without an internet connection. You will not see updated METAR data. The circles that represent the current type rules for a given airport will not be updated. We need an internet connection to keep those updated. I think we send up a new file with those every 5 minutes. There's one other thing. There's another thing that doesn't work within there.
Radar is also
real time. Yeah, the radar is not available. And also, if the NAT tracks happen to update while you're en route, then you won't get that new NAT track message if you don't have an internet connection.
Okay. Now, I had a comment from a attendee saying that he couldn't see all the questions. The way this program works, unless we answer the question, most of the users cannot see the questions, so that's why we're reading them. We have what I believe to be probably another 50 or 60 questions, and some of them are duplicates, so we won't have to spend a tremendous amount of time, but we're just going to continue to try to move through them. The next one is, can you show everyone what to do when you receive a reroute? Remind everyone about scrolling through the waypoint list. And I don't know if we want to go back and replay something at this point, but would you care to address that?
I think in the interest of time, it might be better not to do that here, but to just contact us and we can walk you through it. We also have a video available now. I don't know that it shows.
I believe it does.
Yeah, it'll show using the rubber banding feature. So, and as Ben said, we know that we need to have an easier interface in rubber banding for those reroutes. That's not ready yet. We're still thinking about how to do it. So I apologize. I don't think it's best to try to switch back to the iPad.
Okay.
Yeah, I would hope that there's some contact information maybe in that question, and if you could, Mitch, if you are able to send me a name or something, I'd be happy to reach out to that person.
Okay. Is that MAG course the initial or the average? And what we term it is the initial MAG course or the midpoint MAG course. Would you know that?
Initial.
But it updates as you fly it. Every 2 minutes, it recalculates.
Oh, yeah.
From the present position.
Right. I think, well, there's two MAG courses we're talking about. The MAG course that's in live ETT,
yep.
That updates every 2 minutes. The MAG course between waypoints is the initial MAG course.
Initial MAG course. Okay, thank you. And When looking at the mag course on the waypoint checklist or the waypoint cross check, is that an average mag course or initial? And you did just answer that.
Yep. Initial.
Will this only work in the Nat or Pacific? And it will work in the Pacific. I think you've answered that. It will work worldwide, right?
Yeah, we had somebody do a polar one the other day.
Excellent. Do we need to file using ARINC, or can we use a third-party provider? And right now it is ARINC. You've answered that.
So if possible, with your third-party provider, what we've been providing guidance about that particular question is, ask your third-party provider not to file the plan. Get the route from your third-party provider, create an ARINC Direct flight plan using that route, and file it using ARINC Direct. If your third-party provider is on board with that, then that's the path forward immediately to get the tool working for you. And like I said, this is not the end of the story. We're going to allow this product to evolve and be available to the larger community.
Excellent. Georeference. Georeference available on the chart?
Where am I right now?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm just reading it verbatim, to be honest.
Yeah, if you go into settings in the app, well, by default, a little airplane is going to show where you are, wherever the GPS of the device is. So assuming the device is in the airplane, it's going to show you where the airplane is.
Okay,
as well.
Yeah, what we would call on-ship positioning.
Yeah, ship position. Yeah, own ship.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what we call it too.
What app is in the App Store? There are several.
It's the ARINC Direct app. It's version 6.0. Let me do a quick App Store search. You search for ARINC Direct, no space, or yeah, space. Oops. It's the first one. It says it's just ARINC Direct, no space. It's got a picture of it's got a black airplane. There's ARINC Direct Mini. That's got a paper airplane. That's the one for the phone, but that one can also be loaded on the iPad. You don't want to get FOSS, and you don't want to get the developer app.
Well, you may want them, but they won't have a plotting chart.
Yeah, ARINC FOSS is not the one you want.
Okay. Next is a comment. NAT clearance should never be confused with the filed route. It seems misleading to use the term original oceanic clearance. Perhaps the box should be titled planned oceanic clearance. If the NAT clearance does not change the route, just hit ACT to send the oceanic clearance route box. But if planned is amended, the NAT clearance, that makes the changes before selecting ACT. So it's a rather lengthy comment about the nomenclature associated with your clearance versus your filed.
Right.
So
it does sound like a wording thing. Maybe the existing interface supports what that commenter is talking about, but we just need to change a word here or there. I haven't heard that. I'll be frank. I mean, that's the first time I've heard anybody who took issue with the wording that we've got on there. I don't know if there's more comments in. We'll see if there's more that come. But my take on that particular interface from beta and since we've been in the store is that it suited people's purpose and understanding of
I would suggest that from the point of view of the NAT safety group, they term it the filed clearance, and they actually have a term called filing the file clearance instead of filing the flight plan instead of the clearance. Filed clearance versus clearance, your cleared route. I think that's the two terms: file clearance versus cleared route that the Oceanic Air Group uses in the North Atlantic.
Filed versus
yeah, your filed route versus your cleared route.
There may be some expansion that happens though. If you've got a NAR or NATX in your filing, that'll get expanded into points. So it doesn't actually come out of the filing strip.
Okay. That when we talk about these clearances are the clearances that are confined to the oceanic entry point to the oceanic exit point.
That's why I think we didn't want to use the word filed.
Okay. All right. It's just a thought. And that was a comment that I understood where he was coming from. Any thoughts to adding a 2-degree position check instead of 5 or 10-minute options?
Well, 10 minutes roughly translates into 2 degrees, correct?
Yeah, it's actually 2 degrees is easier if you're doing it on paper, but I don't know if you're electronically doing it, if there's any advantage to it. But I use the 2-degree check, but in your application, it's quite simple to see how 10 minutes would work.
Yeah, it's easier for us to identify 10 minutes than it is 2 degrees. I'll say that.
Okay. Will the notes section on the position report tab support the use of an Apple Pen?
Yeah, yes, but you don't draw in it. You type in it.
You type in it because whatever you draw is not going to show up in your master document.
Okay. Okay. Easy to make fix markers, user-defined selection and settings.
We don't have settings for it right now. I'd be happy to entertain alternative hieroglyphics. It seemed like the oval and the double cross was the most common usage. There's one scenario in a checklist that we were told about where the independent verification of the lat longs by the other pilot is sometimes there's a little check mark written next to the waypoint name. We don't distinctly have that built in right now. It may be something that we need to take a look at. Right now, there's nothing preventing you from still using your regular flight plan and annotating on that. If you annotate on that, you put a little check mark next to each one of your waypoints as you're doing your second independent verification. We're going to detect that your flight plan has been annotated, and we're going to archive that with your leg documents as well, so that you have everything.
And there was an additional.
There were a couple of questions. Can you just tie 2 of them together or 3 of them together? And I think there may be some folks that may just be using one iPad and haven't seen the link option. So if you could just address that for a sec.
The chain link option is you have to be on iOS 12 or later. But that's called Network Manager. Those of you who may have been familiar with our Bluetooth iPad device connection in the past, it's been replaced with Network Manager. You just tap on that icon and you find a peer and you connect with them nearby. Or you just find a nearby peer and you just tap on them, and then voila, the 2 devices are connected, and then data from the plotting chart gets sent back and forth from one iPad to the other. Now, I will say that it's confirmed data. Like if you go into a position report and you put in some notes, that is not going to get synced until you actually hit confirm position report. Or your course validation check is not going to get synced to the other device until you hit confirm course validation. Edit route, if you edit the route, that doesn't get synced over to the other iPad until you hit done. So confirmation of data change is what pushes changes to the other devices.
Okay, I want to note that regarding our discussion of ETA versus ETO, there's been a lot of feedback at the bottom of the questions saying that ETA is a much more familiar term. than ETO. That's anecdotal, of course. And there was a second part to that question that I read earlier. The position report shows an option for selecting slop and actual fuel. Can you confirm that information will not be transmitted to ATC?
Confirmed. Fuel and slop, nothing from any of this gets transferred to ATC.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Very good.
Not even if you ACK your oceanic clearance or your cleared route. That ACK is not an ACK back to ATC. You are acknowledging in the application is what that is referencing.
Okay. Thank you. And that's helpful. And there is also some feeling that the term original clearance is pretty easily understood. So there's going to be a diversity on that.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah,
back
I
to
kind of got the Yeah, I mean, there's different camps in terms of some of the nomenclature and some of the verbiage that we used. Some people like altimeters in one order, some people like them in the other, and it's kind of split down the middle. We may find ourselves needing to put some settings in or some configurable, customizable items that users can define things on their own. We didn't want to do that right away, but we're happy to evolve if it means it makes this a suitable tool for more people.
Okay. Now, I don't think at this point we're going to be able to finish all these questions, and I'm perfectly happy to continue. We've lost about 50% of our attendees. So, David, Ben, are you guys okay with just kind of continuing for another 15 or 20 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a default course validation check warning before the 10-minute time?
No, we are, part of our redesign of the position report cards is we are going to implement a countdown timer. And we might be able to start flashing the card a little bit or getting a little loud once it gets under a minute, something like that. We've got a lot of ideas as far as enhancements to the 10-minute timer.
Okay. Hello, a tab on the left above the charts appears to say docs. If so, what is contained in this section?
Yeah, documents. It works in conjunction with our website. You load documents, PDFs usually, company checklists, AFMs, MELs, you name it. You load them onto the website and they get brought up to the app so that they're available in flight.
Vice versa also.
Yes.
The products generated during the flight, like an annotated flight plan or package, obviously the plotting chart, master document, high-res, saved or version, nat tracks and so forth, are generated on the iPad and pushed back to the website. So that's sort of bidirectional.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's a question or comment trying to solicit from other viewers. Our Bad Elf works well, but the Satcom Direct router worked well in the past, but the last update has created problems. So if anybody else has had that experience and they want to share that, then perhaps we can provide information. Or Ben or David, do you have any information on that?
We don't about the SD router. I will say that some of this is anecdotal, and some of it we had a customer do some testing for us. The dual GPS 150 in certain cockpits, particularly those with heated windscreens, is cutting out frequently, losing its connection during in-flight. We sent one of those customers our Bad Elf, and they used it. It was flawless hanging on the heated windscreen. So that doesn't address the question about the SD router, but that's just some useful information about outboard GPSs. These things are not expensive either. So
okay,
I can attest to the Bad Elf being highly accurate and highly reliable. comparing that to the position I've seen from the SD router, which has a tendency to lag actually quite a bit.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Okay. We're getting a lot more support on the ETA, ATA, moving towards, they like the ETA language. Is there any intent to pull the times and the latitude and longitude off the data bus on the aircraft?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, I went through the slide really fast, but it said the Holy Grail is a flight deck agnostic way to get the data off the 424 bus. And that is unfortunately a long time in the future. There are too many different cockpits and too many different sets of priority for whether they want ARINC Direct supporting that. So there are some possibilities for that. There's a United Technologies device called IntelliSight, or aircraft interface device, that is supposedly cockpit agnostic, but it's not type certified for our business aviation, for most of our business aviation platforms.
Yeah, we consider annotations kind of to be like public enemy number one. We would want to get rid of them at any way possible. So automatically importing the data from the FMS, populating it where it needs to go, showing you the differences between actual and planned. That's kind of what we're really focused on.
Well, I'm not an expert, but let me suggest I always felt pretty good that we had a separate sensor. I felt like having a bad elf in the window with the ability to compare it to what the FMS says in the airplane gave us an independent view, sort of like the standby altimeter. And that may be outdated thinking because I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but we've already got the 424 bus talking to the airplane, displaying on the nav controller, and having a separate mechanism to confirm that was comforting.
Okay, that's a good perspective. I appreciate that. It's still the grail for us. Anything that can help reduce entry errors, we think is a net positive for safety. But point well taken. If that's at the cost of redundancy, then maybe that's not an 100% great idea.
Well, it'd be a good discussion point because here you've got better and best. We're not really talking about, anything that reduces error would be worth having a big discussion about.
Yeah.
Will the master document and other data download into FOSS?
They're available on the ARINC Direct website. I'm not competent to address how it would get into FOSS.
Yeah, well, the thing that we want to get to is if we do capture, well, right now, master document, if you put in all your UI information, we're calculating flight time, block fuel for you. We want to make that available via API or some other mechanism to automatically plug it into FOSS, so you don't have to go log into another system and log your times, and capture all kinds of things like who was flying. That was one of the major feedbacks we got early on was let us define who the pilot flying is, who the pilot monitoring is, and that's probably something you're going to see in the not too distant future. And that kind of information could be made available to scheduling systems so that you don't have to, take the data from our system and hand enter it into another system. That's forward thinking stuff, I hope.
Okay. Yeah. Is it possible to divert en route and come up with a new course and distance from the present position to an ETP airport?
That's what that live ETP is.
Yeah, live ETP is giving you your current whatever your current position is to any of your ETP airports. It's giving you a mag course and a distance.
Okay. Yeah. And all right, I'll take that. I'm recognizing as I read these questions for you that are still with us, we're down to 2:55. We can't read minds. It's we're really reading the questions, and I know it might be frustrating for some of you if I don't ask this in the right manner. Can the distance be displayed in nautical miles somewhere between the fix and the validation point?
Between the fix and the validation point.
So the waypoint and the CVC.
Oh, yes. Okay. We could probably calculate that because we have 2 lat longs. So we can calculate the distance between that. I'll write that down. I hadn't heard of that one yet.
The next question for the data link mandate: what happens to traffic when the tracks happen to be in the exemption areas in the blue spruce routes? The blue spruce routes in the exemption area are a little bit different. Several of the blue spruce routes lie south of the ATS airspace. Those tracks exist in that area. If those tracks exist entirely in that area, they are not data link mandated. But I have never, and this is my limited perspective, but I do look at the tracks an awful lot. I don't recall ever seeing a track that was entirely in ATS surveillance airspace. That usually they begin or end outside of ATS surveillance airspace.
Glad he answered it.
Yeah. Thank you, because we don't have a clue.
Yeah.
One other piece on the live ETPs and also on the redraw, there were quite a few questions about, so it's not recalculating, and so no, it's not going to go hit the engine again, correct? You're just
That's
doing.
correct.
And then on top of that, the live ETPs, since they don't take into wind into account, you don't need Wi-Fi to have the live ETPs working as long as you got a GPS position.
Correct. Yes, it does not take winds into effect. That's why I say use that ETA with a grain of salt.
Yeah, we won't be able to change the color of the METAR ball if conditions change at that airport.
Okay.
But once you divert and maybe you're headed into the wind, your next few GPS updates will give us a lower ground speed, and so our estimates will change. But we're still not hitting a flight planning engine at that point. That's way in the future for us.
We have another question regarding something that came up earlier. For Part 91 operations, is an LOA or an FAA approval required for ARINC electronic plotting as an alternate means? And it mentions alternate means to 9170 Bravo. 9170 Bravo actually says in it that 91 operators may use alternate means if they include electronic flight bags that are compliant with AC 9178. So 9178 is the guidance for an acceptable electronic flight bag. And if you read through 9170 Bravo, it mentions that and we've got that in the course where I can't give you a paragraph and number, but I teach that all the time. Is there a way to autopilot the NAT tracks on the electronic charts so you always know where they are located?
Autopilot?
Autoplot. Is there a way to autoplot the NAT tracks, not autopilot, autoplot the NAT tracks on the E-chart so you always know where they're located?
Well, there are layers that can be turned on very easily. We could default them to on.
We're trying to let the pilot be in charge of the level of clutter, but there's in the plotting chart down the left edge, there is a NATS button, and you can turn them on there. You can also, what you're doing is you're turning on the standard NAT layers that we have on all maps. So you can turn them on and leave them on. I'm a little bit leery at this point of defaulting them on.
I would agree with that because they often are shown on operators' charts when they're not in effect. and they can be misleading, because if you've got them displayed and the tracks aren't in effect at the time, then they can be distracting and misleading. So being able to select them on and off, I think, is excellent option. Now, I'm going to skip ahead. There was a question that came up about how you represent the circles when you circle, when you strike through those annotations. And the comment came that it wasn't consistent with a North Atlantic bulletin. And we deal with this a lot. There are lots of ways that you can use these annotations, the circles, the slashes, the cross slashes. They have a bulletin out in the North Atlantic that talks about one way to do it. 9170 Bravo talks about a slightly different way to do it. There are a multitude of op specs that do it differently. And ARINC is doing it in one way. So while we might not be familiar with the way that ARINC's doing it, or you might have a suggestion about how ARINC might do it better, there is not a set version of how that is to be conducted. There is a lot of latitude on and a lot of variation on how that's conducted. So that had come up a couple times, and I wanted to.
If I could add to that, I want to say that our position report redesign that's going to be coming out, I'm going to try to make it, right now when you enter data, it becomes actual data. And that gives the appearance that you don't really have much control over what the estimates are. We do recognize that we think users have a need to put in a lot more estimated data and save it as estimated data without necessarily confirming the position report and doing the slash. And that might be what this user is referring to. That I have had a couple of customers say, hey, the way the workflow that you guys have kind of defined here doesn't really work with the way we go, our procedures go through the process. And like, I appreciate what you said. Yeah, there's different ways to skin this cat. We tried to make it as flexible as possible. You don't have to hit confirm position report when we tell you that you necessarily should. You can hit it whenever you want. I guess my takeaway from that kind of question is we need to be more flexible in allowing users to update their estimates without actually confirming anything.
All right, I would buy that. There is nothing you're going to do that's going to satisfy everybody in that unless you create a lot of different customizable selections, and I think that might be counterproductive in an app like that.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, if you receive an oceanic reroute when picking up a clearance, will the ETPs adjust accordingly? And I think you've addressed this, but it's an important topic. So if you could just touch on that one more time.
Right. The ETPs don't get, the flight plan does not get recomputed. So therefore, the ETPs are what were affiliated with your original route. And so when you do get a reroute, the ETPs associated with your plan are not really all that useful, depending on how dramatic the reroute is. So our stance on that is, as a tactical tool, live ETP is much more valuable when you're actually flying the plane than, say, plan ETPs, especially if you're off route.
Okay, but you did say that live ETP was based on your current ground speed, so that if you were to turn and the wind were to change significantly, that wouldn't be reflected in live ETP as you move along the route of flight.
Right, but giving you situational awareness is so much as like what's the weather conditions there, what is my actual emergency, do I need to go to my closest one, or should I get to one as quick as possible, but not the one that might necessarily be the closest, based on the nature of whatever my emergency scenario happens to be.
Okay. I'm going to wrap it up with a couple of questions here that I think are representative of several. What generation iPad and iPad Pencil is required to use the app?
any iPad that can run iOS 12 or later can run the plotting chart. Obviously, for many reasons, weight and balance in particular, the more modern and the more powerful your iPad is, the better. But it will work on any hardware that can run iOS 12.
Okay. Ed, do you want to see any questions that would be representative to kind of wrap this up?
I think we covered most everything.
For all this to work.
The most recent one at the bottom is, if this program is adopted for Part 91 operators and ARINC has different procedures, then they have to be consistent. And that is from a subject matter expert in this. So if they're going to have procedures that utilize certain annotations for waypoints, you'd need to adjust that in your SOPs so that it would be consistent with your SOPs.
Yeah, and we're happy to work with operators to give them an understanding of, you know, the flexibility that is built into this tool, how it, you know, could be, you use it in a certain way that is consistent with your current SOPs. If that option isn't available, then yeah, we'd either take a look at adding something to our interface. As I said, this is going to evolve. Or adjusting their SOPs.
All right, and a final question. I assume to save required weather for the folder to be maintained for 6 months would require the crew to generate a package to attach. Would that be correct?
At the present time, yes, but that is on our roadmap to automatically save a weather package. And
one thing you can do is go to the documents section of the app, and there's a new package button right there. It's one button away. So it's fairly easy to accomplish right now.
Yeah, and here's one that I know is going to be common. How about a calculated ARINC flight plan that's not filed? Can we use that data?
You can calculate the plan. And if it's far enough out, we do this for demonstration purposes all the time. You can file it, then go to the plotting chart and tap on the button and open it, and then immediately go cancel it. If you're doing this on a flight plan that has an ETD a day or two in advance, we're not going to actually transmit that filing to ATC. So if you file it and then just immediately cancel it, well, file it, go to the plotting chart and open it up, and then go right back and cancel it, that filing strip is not going to be transmitted to any air traffic control centers if it's 24 hours in the future or more. So it can be a canceled plan, I guess, is my point.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense to me as an operator. And then finally, there's one more which just pointed out to me. Do you need a full subscription for other ARINC services in order to do plotting, or can you get this feature with any of the other ARINC services? Without any of the other ARINC services?
You need to have access to ARINCDirect flight planning and filing.
So
okay.
The flight planning package is a silver, or is that the bronze?
Bronze, yeah.
Yeah, or there's an a la carte plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's you don't have to have, you know, Swift broadband and all that. You can have just a flight planning subscription, which is I believe the bronze plan, or an a la carte flight planning subscription, and that gives you access to the app and therefore it gives you access to plotting chart.
Okay. Now I'm gonna apologize to the attendees. I've never seen a response like this. I think we have probably another 40 or 50 questions that we haven't gotten to, and they're all great questions, and I don't want to discount any of them. You can send them to the iPad email at rockwellcollins.com, and I'm sure these guys can help resolve that. We're going to try to get this up and edited and available for viewing later. So we just want to tell you that we appreciate your attendance, your participation. Don't hesitate to reach out to us at 30 West IP if we can help. Obviously, David and Ben are the experts on this, and we look forward to the next the next webinar. We don't have a topic yet, but we're always working on topics. So if you have something you'd like to see, reach out. And so let me say thank you, David. Thank you, Ben, for first and foremost, the fine work that you've done. And second, for being willing to share that with the community in the manner that you just have.
It was our great pleasure and honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.